name is Johannes Näder. I'm working with the Free Software Foundation Europe as a policy person. And before I dive into the topic, I would like to say some words about the Free Software Foundation Europe, the FSFE, and also about free software. So we are a charity that empowers users to control technology. Software is deeply involved in all our lives, and this is why it's important that software rather helps us than restricting us. And for that, we believe we need free software. What is free software? And I think here at Force Backstage, this is a bit carrying, or preaching to the converted. But as it is really important also for the further talk, I would still say some words about it. Free software is, of course, software that guarantees every user 4 basic rights or freedoms, as we call it. Everyone is allowed to use it, to study, to share, and to improve it, to use it for any reason, to share it also free or for money. This is both possible. These 4 basic freedoms are guaranteed through licenses. As you all know, license lists are run by the Open Source Initiative, by the Free Software Foundation, or by the Debian project. And if any license is not in there, then it's probably not a free software license. And if you take a look at license and only one of those freedoms is missing, then it's also not free software or open source, then it's proprietary. And this is important for the further talk and for the topic if we talk about openwashing. We at the Free Software Foundation Europe are convinced that we need controllable, shapeable, and transparent digital infrastructures. And to achieve this, we need free software in public administrations, in the education sector, and on private devices. Coming back to the topic, I would like to start with a success story, then explain a bit the topic of openwashing, what it's about, give you a definition, talk about openwashing methods, and at this point I will also give you some examples. We will have a look at why this is important and what we can do to curb it. So first, the success story. This is public money, public code. So when we at the Free Software Foundation Europe, I think by now 9 years ago, invented public money, public code, we wouldn't have thought that it would become that successful. It would make it into policy strategies, debates, party papers, across the political spectrum, like today. This is really something that everyone working in our field has on the radar somehow. And this is also because public money, public code has a very simple claim. We want software created using taxpayers' money to be released as free software and a free software license. So whenever it's public code, whenever it's public money, it should be public code as well. Of course, this is somehow drilling through hardwood, so it's going to take some years. We will not see public money, public code, 100% free software in public administrations across Europe this year, by the end of this year or next year. So it will take us some time. And this is why we should start now, because it should start happening soon. It should start soon. So we will finally reach those 100%. So we need incremental change across Europe on all levels. So European level, state level, also in municipalities everywhere. Yeah, we see progress, but at the same time we see some problems. So there's a lack of clear policies for public money, public code. Where we have policies already in place or we have strategies in place, there's often a lack of implementation, also because of loopholes probably that are in those policies. We have a lack of statistics to measure progress. This is really a problem because we cannot sometimes not tell whether we are moving really forward in the right pace. There is, and this is what the last talk was about, a lack of sustainable budgets for free software. And we see, and this is what this talk is about, problematic competition practices. Openwashing is one example, not the only, but one example for this. This is why we at the Free Software Foundation Europe decided that we have to be not only helpful and demanding when it comes to public money, public code, helpful in advising public administrations and decision makers how to get there, but also at the same time to be watchdogs. Yeah, so openwashing, what is it? For sure, it is not new and it will not disappear. It harms public money, public code, and free software, and we need to recognize openwashing, talk about, and curb it. This morning, my 5-year-old daughter asked me what my today's talk would be about, and I I tried to explain it in very simple words to her, and I said, so it's about someone pretending to release free software, but it really is not. Of course, she probably won't understand what free software is. Maybe she does if she has read our Free Software Foundation Europe's book, Ada and Zangemann, and she has several times, or I have read it to her. But you can even put it more simple. It's about misleading people, it's about misguiding people, it's about lying, and this is something that even children can understand. But to come to a bit better definition and also to understanding of which different open washing methods there are, we have, during the last years, been conducting a survey. It is also still open. You can scan this code and fill it out if you want to find out more about open washing and to get impressions from the community. And we received a lot of answers there, also some really interesting ones, like this one. So someone was hoping for an open source washing machine. So in fact, his idea is not so wrong. So I've conducted some research on this, and on GitHub I found a project called Openwasher, which in fact is an open source washing machine. Okay, but not so helpful for our topic. That's why we, based on the survey, came up with a hopefully profound definition. Open washing means creating the misleading impression of developing, offering, or otherwise supporting free software, while in fact offering proprietary software. So there are two criteria to be fulfilled. First, it must be proprietary software, also a product that is only partly free software is proprietary. And there must be some misleading communication around the whole thing. So the manufacturer gives the impression that this software is free software. I would say open washing is a form of fraudulent labeling, usually with the intention of gaining a market advantage for proprietary software products. Talking about motivation, there may be two main ones. The one thing I just already mentioned, so it's about gaining access to markets, about earning money, about having an advantage against competitors. And the other one is for companies to somehow benefit from the good image that free software, that open source has, and to be part of the free software community while selling proprietary products. What are the key actors? Of course, companies producing and selling proprietary software and trying to do open washing. This is pretty clear. Also people in politics and in public administrations who are, for example, working in procurement offices and have to put out tenders and have to find criteria for those tenders. Also journalists in the media who shape how the term open or open source is framed publicly, and probably also us, because we are the ones, so every one of us, we are the ones that can and should take a better look at what is defined as open source or free software. And if it's not really free software, then do something about it. So coming to the methods and to the examples that I have, from the survey we have put together a sort of typology of methods and strategies for open washing. And I will not go through every point here, and I don't have examples for every point here, because then also it would probably take too long. But for some, of course. So for buzzwording, the first one, buzzwording and misleading naming. So this list is also not sorted by priority or something like that, but buzzwording and misleading naming is on purpose on the top of this list because it's something very common. Companies that try to do some to be very verbose about how open they are, but not really releasing free software. So some years ago, this is in German, sorry for that, but it's about a German company. Probably some of you from Germany will know the case. It's about the German, Northern German public service IT provider, Dataport, that released the sovereign workplace solution Phoenix for public administrations and presented it as open source, while no one, so at least from my knowledge, we also tried to get the code after we had received access to the software, and no one ever received the whole code, and no one was able to deploy it, so it was only run on their servers. It's a rather old story because after we and also other actors spoke up about this, and criticized it. Today, Phoenix is not there anymore. Yeah, but I have one other example that might fit into this buzzwording thing, or I would be interested in your opinion also on that, is OpenAI. So we have this company that has open in their name even, and of course they don't really advertise their proprietary AI models as free software or as open source or open weight even, but they still have it in the name, and this leaves, I think, many many people that are not technologically skilled with the impression that it's somehow more open than their competitors. But let me know what you think about in the Q&A. We have the second one is misleading licensing. So if companies, just choose a license, free software license, and change some sentences or add a word to the license title, change some of the content without really telling anyone, and selling it, saying it's free software, it's open source. What I have here is partial openness. Probably many of you will know under the term open core while claiming the whole thing to be open. Or also having a community edition and enterprise edition, the community edition under a free software license, the enterprise edition under a proprietary license, but claiming everything to be free software, not really being open about the enterprise edition being proprietary. Example for this is the quite well-known, this is not about the community versus enterprise edition, but about the open core model. The password manager Bitwarden, they are very outspoken about it being open source, but if you look at the repository, then you find that one part of it is under the Bitwarden license, which is not free software license, so it's proprietary, and this makes it open washing, I would say. Then we have something that has happened a lot during the last 5 to 7 years, relicensing a free software as proprietary, while claiming, we're still very, very open. This is still very open. We're committed to open source, something like that. And for this, some examples like HashiCorp or Elastic will come to your mind, and some of them have reverted their decision and went back to free software, and some of them don't claim it to be open source anymore today, but still they started like it, and their damage has happened through it, I think. And there are also actual examples. So this is from now. This is Arango, so German company. They released in 2023 a blog post on the website, which you can see some excerpts here, telling the public that they will switch to a proprietary license, but still saying ArangoDB is a company firmly grounded in open source, and below in the summary part, our commitment to open source ideas remain unshaken. So I would say this also, it goes, so as you see also, it's a bit of buzzwording, so probably also those things in those points in our list, they are not isolated. So companies who do this open washing thing are trying to use several methods at the same time. If you now look at the Arango website today, I have to hurry up, then you will of course see that there is a community edition, open source, free for evaluation and non-commercial use. So it's proprietary, it's open washing. You find things like quiet relicensing, so not being verbose about it, just doing it, hoping no one notices. Free client proprietary server, like Telegram is an example for that, where the free software depends on the proprietary server backend. I will skip some points now and directly move to pseudo OpenAI, which I think is quite important now. So even, the whole debate about free software models, is there free software AI? There are good arguments to say that we need the training data, but even if you say that open weight would qualify as open source, which many of us don't, I think, then even in that case, we will find some examples for open washing, and a lot of examples for open washing. There are, for example, XAI's Grok 2.5, which should have been released as open weight or open source even. If you look at the license, it's a proprietary license. So not even open weight in the sense of, One quick word about, or maybe I also skipped this part about sovereignty washing. Maybe you can tackle it in the in the Q&A, because it's also a big thing. Just maybe saying so much about it that digital sovereignty cannot be reached without free software. So buy European your products is not enough for that. And a lot of this is happening to trying to redefine digital sovereignty by saying it's enough if you just buy from European vendors, even if they're proprietary. So why is the whole open-washing thing a problem? It's a problem for a lot of reasons, and for whom. So for free software manufacturers, they are not awarded in procurement, they lose revenue. For developers, they have probably loss of income and might face layoffs. For the community, where it causes mutual distrust. For free software in itself, because free software might face a reputational damage. Problems with proprietary products will be attributed to free software. Open source is not working, so something like that. Public administrations don't get control over digital infrastructures, even if they strive for it. There's no interoperability, and there's an ongoing vendor lock-in. And the general public is deceived about the sustainable use of taxpayers' money. So the goals of public money, public code are undermined, and there's a damage to the free software ecosystem. Now, just a quick word. We have Maslow's hammer. Open-washing is, of course, not the only problem for the free software ecosystem. There are other ones, and we should be really careful to label them correctly. So if free software becomes proprietary without open-washing communication around it, it's also a problem. If we have single vendors lacking a community, it's a problem. Weak business models are a problem. Freeloading, vulnerable components as dependencies are problems, but this is all not open-washing. Let's be very clear about that. Last point, and then hopefully time for Q&A. What can we do about it? Public administrations are, I think they should try to reduce the risk of awarding contracts to open washers. They can do this by getting expertise and anchoring it in reliable structures and institutions, by using tender criteria that prevent open washing, and they should maintain the ability to change and willingness to learn. And they should, of course, try to avoid own open washing. There are several possibilities to do that. What can we all do? We should understand the strategies and methods of open washing and of unfair competition. Of course, avoid own open washing, this is pretty clear, I think, but also talk about it, raise awareness. We should monitor markets and public administrations, what they do, what is happening around public money, public code. And if we see something that is suspicious, then we should ask questions, educate, and convince public administrations and decision makers. There's not always a dishonest intention. Someone from the survey pointed us to that. It's good that people, you can always also talk to people and ask them why they do something that looks like open washing. But if it seems to be on purpose, then we should point it out and criticize it, and other market practices that harm free software, because we do not want to end up in a future where open washing defines how openness is seen. I would like to ask you to support us on the way, because this is our daily work at the FSFE, so please become an FSFE supporter today. We really need you and your support. And now, thank you, Q&A, if we have still the time.
Hi, thank you for the talk. The second point, you mentioned that companies are rewriting the license sometimes. I thought the FSE, at least the FSF license, were copyrighted and not open source not free software by themselves. You cannot change them. That's copyright infringement, no?
Yeah, right. But I'm not a legal expert, but I think it's not true for all licenses. So some you can change, and even if it's not allowed, some people will try to do that, and we have seen that, trying to just add some words and change the title, and then say this is a open source license.
And something like what Linux or Java, is doing, like adding a line on top of the GPL v2, for example, what we call the Linux exception or the class pass exception. Is that okay, or is that's still
anything that contradicts the license would make it then proprietary, I would say so. But again, I'm not a legal expert here.
Yeah, I just had a question. Say hypothetically I were to work at a company that was complicit in any of these open washing practices myself. What are some ways that you can? Because obviously, I don't think you're going to be able to change anything fundamentally about what the company's doing. But maybe some smart ways to go about just starting a conversation around open washing internally at a company.
If they're enough people on your side, then probably maybe it could make a difference. What we have seen with the examples that I mentioned before, like I'm really not sure. Maybe Elastic. I think because they also reverted their decision because there was public pressure from the community.
Yeah, I think that public administrations needs like clear standards to refer, especially in public tenders. So my question is about that. What kind of, when defining open source and you are writing a public tender, you can be open washed by the companies that won that tender. So how public administrations can define open source licenses or what standards they can use to define that?
Yeah, so we worked a bit at the FSFE with the Center for Digital Sovereignty in Germany and CENDIS on that topic in the past. And one smart thing I think to do is, so what they do, or what also, with their open code repository, they have a criteria which licenses you can use to put your software on open code. It's so on the open code repository, and these are all free software licenses. So if this is a criterion, then this could be helpful. Another criterion could be, has the company in the past done anything like Openwashing? Is there something known about it? And there are other criteria. I think that would now lead too far. But I think there are ways to not pin it down and make it 1-0 clear that this is not an Openwashing company, but there are ways to narrow the chances down.
I've got a theoretical question. You don't have to answer it. It's part of the education. I read last week a sentence like open by design instead of open source only. That was totally
nice.
Nice.
It's a buzzword.
Nice marketing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one of the additional reasons why companies might try to open wash is because a lot of the EU acts have exceptions for open source software or open source AI, whether that exists or not. And I was wondering, is the FSFE maybe in a position to call someone officially out on that? Like, is there something like a class action or whatever? Is there a European instrument that you could use to actually, hey, you're claiming exceptions that don't actually apply to you? Is that something that you see as part of your role?
I must say that we have someone working in European politics, so I cannot say really much about it at this point. Sorry.
As a concerned citizen of Republic of Poland, I'm really concerned about open washing of our government. And if you don't know, they're open washing with national LLM, open washing with our digital ID. Just recently, they released only a set of UI components and called, okay, we open source the entire app. So as a concerned citizen, what I can do to call these practices out, considering that public opinion have literally no knowledge about open source?
Okay, finally we have one, so we have done some internal work at the FSFE on Openwashing, and we haven't published it yet, and it's high time that we publish it. We have a volunteer from Poland who has been asking us to publish it because he wants to use it to address the Polish government. So maybe you can wait some weeks.
I'm waiting.
And then it's on our website. One thing that anyone can do is what Dan Brown, I think he's from the UK, is doing on Codeberg. He's collecting Openwashing cases and making them public, also trying to talk with those open washers, as I said, and see if they might be willing to change something about that. At the same time, this gives you a lot of pressure. I would say, as an individual, you can always contact us and tell us if you see something. I don't know whether we will be able to do something about that specific case. But we will try to raise the pressure and be watchdogs. And you can, of course, as I said, click this link and support us at the FSFE to help us doing something against it.
Please, huge round of applause for Johannes.